Go. Okay. So I hope everybody enjoyed their holiday weekend. I am going to start off with just kind of telling you guys a little bit for those of you that don't really know me or only met me a few times. I am the office manager at the Brazelton location. You can reach me anytime here. We have been doing a series of these classes. Pardon my email popping up. But I just want everybody to know that I am available through Zoom, or you can come here to the Brazelton office if you want to meet and do some one-on-one work. We can do that as well. So just keep that in mind. For those of you that are new, because we do have a few folks that have just started using appFiles, there should be some previous classes on the YouTube channel that you can go back and watch. Because I know some people had mentioned about they want to set up template appFiles, and I have actually covered that in a previous class. So you may want to go back and watch those, or like I said, you're more than welcome to set up a time to meet one-on-one with me. But this morning, what I really want to focus on, I have a couple little tricks that I'm going to show you that are really quick that hopefully will maybe make your life a little bit easier, even for those of you folks that have been using appFiles for a long time. And then what I really want to focus on today is form values, because I feel like lately that is the question that I've been getting asked most often from people is, how can I have it so I don't have to fill in those forms with information every single time? So I'm going to show you guys how you can import values from other places and what you can do to kind of make that easier, because nobody wants to fill in all that stuff every single time you have a contract. Okay. All right. So again, pardon my email. It may pop up a few times. This is kind of my test app file that I use for folks, so it may look a little bit busy. So I'm sorry. If you guys can hang on for just 1 second. Guys, I'm in class. Okay, sorry about that. So it looks a little bit messy, so sorry about that, but hopefully it will suit our needs for today. So a couple things that I want to show you guys is about assigning files to yourself, and we'll talk about why that makes your life easier, and then also linking files with each other, because I think that's something that often gets overlooked that can maybe save you, a couple extra minutes or whatever. So in order to assign yourself an app file, you can see right here, I've already assigned this to myself. So for the purposes of our class, I'm just going to unassign it so I can show you guys. Now, the point of assigning files to yourself is so that when you're on this home page here, just collapse my thing here. When you're on this home page, rather than going to my app files, which if you're a new agent, maybe going here doesn't seem like that big of a deal. But if you're a very established agent, you're going to have a lot of files right there. You don't want to have to try to look through those. Also, doing a search can take a while. So maybe you don't want to do that. But over here on this left-hand side where it says assigned to me, anything that I have that I am currently working on, a file that I'm currently working with, I assign it to myself. So then all I have to do when I'm on my home screen is just click on this, and then I can see all the files that I'm working in right now. So that's just a quick way to save yourself time. And then when I'm done working with a file, then I just unassign it. It's still there. I can still find it. I can still work with it if I need to. But you can see I have a very short list here of files that I'm currently working in. So I just think that's an easy way to get access to things that you are working on, whether it's a seller file or it's a pending file, it's getting ready to close, whatever. Just makes your life a little bit easier. So all you have to do to assign a file to yourself is you just go over here in the middle of the screen where it says assign, and you click the little drop-down menu, and then you just go through and you find your name. Now, unfortunately for you guys, you'll have a pretty long list there, so you may not even be able to see all of those people. I'm not really sure. But you can just find yourself very quickly, click on your name, and then it's assigned. So easy breezy. Hopefully that saves you guys a few seconds. The other thing that I think is really good for folks is when you are working with a client that you're representing on both sides of the transaction. So if it's a buyer and a seller, linking those two app files together, because obviously you're going to have two different files, like, you know, buying side and selling side, but linking those together when you're working with them simultaneously is helpful. So what I'm going to do here is on this right hand side, I'm going to click on link an app file. There we go. All right, and then all you have to do is search for the file that you want to link. So I'm going to use, let's see, I'll use this personal file here. What did I call that one? Let's use this Tuscany Drive one. There we go. Okay, so now you can see over here on this right-hand side, you can see the other file that I was in. So basically what that does is when you're working in that file, like let's say you're in their seller file and you're like, oh, I need to go check on something in their buyer file, you can just, rather than going back to your home page, you can just click on the link and it'll open the file for you. So it's just a really quick, easy way if you have somebody that you're working with on, you know, both sides of the transaction, or maybe it's like you're helping them sell their house and then they're renting somewhere else while they build or whatever, you know, they have multiple files linked together. It's just a quick way to be able to go like bounce back and forth between the files instead of going back to your home page and doing all of that. So just a couple of quick tips there. Hopefully that saves you guys a little bit of time. I'm going to close out of some of these files here. I'm not a person that likes to have lots of tabs open because I think when you do that, it gets confused. So, all right. Any questions on linking the files or assigning files? Good. Perfect. Okay. Let's talk about form values. Like I said, I get this question a lot from people who say, I don't want to have to fill out these forms repeatedly, or maybe you're working on a purchase and sale agreement for somebody and you don't want to have to fill in all that information because that can definitely become cumbersome. So let's talk about how you can do that. Okay, now, the first thing that I want to say, and this is something that I think I didn't really fully understand until probably last year. I contacted appFiles about another question and ended up finding this out. So basically, when you're talking about importing values from one form to another, it's an apples to apples situation. Okay. So in other words, like you're not going to be able to, let me just go to this last page here. You're not going to be able to go on this purchase and sale form and this information right here that's your information. You can't then go and take that and put it on a buyer brokerage agreement because it's not going to transfer everything over because the forms are set up a little bit differently. And let me show you what I'm talking about. And if you guys don't know this, for those of you that are new, when you want to look at documents like simultaneously, you can click on this little pop-out button. And then it allows you to look at multiple documents at the same time. So I'm just going to move this out of the way for just one moment. And then let me open up a buyer brokerage agreement. Okay. All right. Okay, so here I have my two documents that I want to look at. Oops, pardon me. Okay, so what I'm saying is, like, do you see how these are not set up quite the same? Like you have brokerage firm, and then licensee phone number, license email address, but then here you have the broker address, and over here the broker address is on this side. So because these forms don't, the way the information is set up, they don't exactly match. It's not, if you try to pull information from one of these forms to another, it's not going to copy over. It has to be apples to apples. Okay. So if you have a buyer brokerage form and you want to pull over your information, you're going to need to go pull it off another buyer brokerage agreement. So that's why I always tell people set up template app files, because if you set up a template app file, like so let's say for a buyer, then you're going to have all of that information already filled in and you don't have to worry about importing it. Does that, hopefully that makes sense to everybody. But the way that I know that this information is not apples to apples, besides just looking at it and going, okay, these two sections are set up very differently. If you click on this little blue edit button right here, okay, when you hover over these screens, see how this says like buyer mailing address? If you go down here, it says like selling agent email. Those are the titles that the people at appFiles have given these fields. So for this to match up, those fields have to be named the same thing. So let me show you here on here we go. Okay, so like right here, this said selling agent email. This one also says selling agent email. So most likely that information would match up, but if these fields are not named the same thing, it's not going to pull that information over. Does that make sense to everybody? Yay, nay? This is interactive. John, that doesn't make sense to you?
Oh, there we go.
There
Well,
you
yeah,
go.
I'm just kind of so at the advanced stage that this is all nice to know, but I'm still trying to figure out how to write a purchase and sell agreement, add exhibits, and email it to my clients. So I'm just here for the ride.
All
But you
right, well,
wanted an interaction, so I had to go.
well,
"Meow."
I love that. Thank you. I appreciate it. So maybe at the end, if we have time, then we can go back and look at some of those things. But like I was saying at the beginning, a form values is a question that I've gotten from folks a lot recently. So that's why I kind of wanted to spend a little bit of time on it. But again, this is why I encourage everybody to set up your template app files, because if you set up a buyer file, like a buyer template file, and you go ahead, you pre-fill in all this information. So like this is your buyer brokerage agreement. You go ahead and pre-fill all of this in. Then every time you have a buyer, all you do is you copy that template app file, and then all that information is there for you. Okay. So to me, the easiest way to get all of this kind of pre-filled is to create those template app files. Okay. And like I said, I've covered that in a previous class. So if you missed that, you can always go back to the YouTube channel and find that, or you're welcome to set up a time with me. I can help you guys create those as well. All right. So moving on to kind of filling in these forms and how you can actually import values from things. So let's look at a purchase and sale agreement. Like, let's say you guys are going to be writing, since John mentioned a purchase and sale, let's say that you're going to be writing up an offer. And you want to get all of that information, you know, that very, I'm thinking that first paragraph where you've got like the address and the tax ID and blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. If you don't know, if it is listed on FMLS or Georgia MLS, you can import that information from there. So let me show you what I mean. I've actually taken, this is an old listing from when my husband and I sold our house in Paulding County. So I'm just going to use that particular number. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to open my purchase and sale. Okay. So what I'm talking about is this. Like, maybe I'm wrong, I'm not an agent, but this seems like this would be annoying to me to have to fill all this in by hand. So if it is listed in the MLS, I would just come up here, click on import values. We're going to import it from an MLS. You can choose either one. This one is actually from FMLS. So I'm just going to paste that number that I had at the top of my app file. I'm going to click on search. This is the address. So I'm going to say, yep, that's it. Okay. And then look at that. It has all of the information right here. Okay. I'm going to click on start import. It's going to show me everything that it filled in right here. I'm going to click on finish. Okay. So now you can see that all of this is filled in. But the nice thing too, if you are making an offer on a property, it's going to go ahead and fill in the listing agent's information for you as well. So you can see right here, it filled in the listing information because this is a a home that's already sold. Obviously, you can tell by the listing number, it's very old. But it went ahead and filled in the buyer broker's information as well. Obviously, unless it's already under contract, it's not going to do that for you. So this is why this is important to fill in ahead of time. But hopefully that helps you guys. If you didn't already know that you could do that, you can import this. You can even do this from another file. So let's say that a few years ago, you helped someone purchase a home and now they want to sell it. You can import that information from your previous app file as well. Okay. So let me show you guys what that looks like. So if I click on add forms, I'm just going to add another purchase and sale agreement. And this might be a good time to point out to you guys that if you didn't already know, we do have these like listing packages like pre-made for you. So you don't have to necessarily think about what different forms do I need. There are some packages that are already made and you can just click on like select all and add it into your file. So that may save some people time too if you didn't know that that was there. All right, purchase and sale. Okay, here we go. All right, so let's say that you had another app file where you wanted to import this information from the other app file. You can do that here as well. So let me go over here to my other. See, this is nice where you link files. You can go back and forth from different things. Let's see, do I have it on here? I don't. Okay. Unfortunately, I don't have one where I've already have this information filled in. Okay, this one will work. So let's say that let me back up for a second if you guys will excuse me. Let's say that you sold like they own multiple homes and or maybe you sold their home, whatever that looks like. You can copy information from one app file to another. You can import it from one form to another form. So I just want to show you guys what that looks like. I'm going to pop this out and we'll come back to that in just a second. Find one of our old forms here. Okay, so let's say you wanted to copy values from an old dual entry form because you're going to relist a property or something like that. You can do that here as well. So right now I'm in my test file and I want to copy this information from my old 1225 Tuscany Drive file. So let me just pop these out so you guys can see these documents together. So it's the same process. I'm going to click on import values. I'm going to say import from a form. Okay. And then it's going to ask me which app file. So it automatically defaults to the file that I'm in, but I want to pull it from my other app file. So I'm just going to enter the address. And here we go. And then it's going to ask me which form do I want to import the values from. Okay. Now, can everybody see here where it says like no values, and then 49 values? And then down here, we have another one, 75 values. Anybody have any idea why some of those say no value and why some have values in them? Anybody want to guess?
It's not showing the form at all on my screen, Selena.
You can't see it on your screen. Can anybody else see
No,
it? Anybody else having any issues seeing the form?
No, form.
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
Wrong screen.
Wrong screen?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I'm not sure who I'm speaking with. It just says owner.
Jody Sanders.
Hey, Jody.
Hey.
Okay, you should see two dual entry forms. Can you guys
No,
not see?
no.
no, nothing.
Still
All
stuck
right.
on the other form.
Okay, gotcha. Let's try. I'm gonna do stop share for a moment. Sometimes this happens with technology. Always fun.
Oh,
All right, how about now?
got it.
Much better.
Yay!
There's a
Love it when
folder.
technology is our friend, right? Right? Okay, so if you think about what I said before about fields needing to be apples to apples, why do you guys think that some of these say no values and some of them have values? Anybody want to guess? Nobody? Okay, so the reason why some of these say no values and like this one says 49 values is because that means that this form does not have any values that match the other form. So these are both dual entry forms. So obviously, like a listing checklist is not going to have a value that matches a dual entry form. Okay. So this is kind of your little clue so you can see how much of the information is going to copy over or whether or not the information is going to copy over. So dual entry to dual entry is apples to apples. So I can import values from this form. Okay. I'm going to click on choose. And then look, now I can see all of the information that's going to come in. Okay. If you don't want that, like let's say you want to redo the remarks, so you don't want that to come in, then you can just uncheck those and none of that information will populate in. Okay. So I'm going to click on start import. Okay. And then it shows me everything that it populated in. And then I click on finish and there we go. So what I have done is I have successfully copied information from this app file. Okay, you can see how this one says 1225 Tuscany Drive to this form and this app file, 2026 test file. I don't know if you guys can see that. Maybe make it a little bigger. I have my screen pretty big because I don't like putting my reading glasses on, but I know sometimes when you're doing these Zoom things, it's still hard for people to see. Okay.
Lena, isn't this a moot point since we're using OcuCell now and that it wouldn't transfer over?
Well, we are making the transition to OcuCell, yes, but we are still using Swift. But thank you, Jody, for asking that question because eventually you would be able to do this with OcuCell forms.
We couldn't find it the other day, and Barbara says it's because we're not using it anymore. We're not using this old dual
These,
entry. Right.
I will say we are still using these for relists because at the moment there is no mechanism for us to relist properties in OcuCell. But it is possible, and I can look at it right now. Let's look at if you guys will indulge me for just one moment. Okay, so you guys should still be able to see it because it says all users still have access. So Jody, when you guys were looking at it, when you go to add forms, did you do can you guys still see this? I just want to make sure.
Yes.
Okay. So did you go to this search forms and start typing in?
We just went to that first paragraph, the listing items.
Okay, so this is a listing package. So because we are making the transition over to strictly OcuCell, it's only going to have your OcuCell form in here. But if you do a search for dual entries, like if I just start typing in dual, OcuCell is going to come up first because obviously that's really what we want people to use is the OcuCell. But if you keep scrolling, here's the Swift dual entry forms.
Okay.
So we have not taken y'all's access away for that to that yet. Mostly because, like I said, for if you have a relist, like let's say you have a property expire and you're relisting it, right now in OccuSell, we don't have a way to relist it like quickly. We would have to start over from scratch. So we're still using Swift when we do those relists. But I would say that if it's a brand new listing, you should definitely be using those OccuSell forms because we are going to be making the switch over to that. And if you guys don't know, I am doing an OccuSell class on the 16th, I believe it is. So that was a great question, Jody. Thank you for asking that. Just keep in mind too that this goes for any form. Like I just use the dual entry as an example, but this can go for any form that you have. So, like if you have a seller listing agreement because you sold a house of theirs previously and you want to import their information, you can do that. I mean, here's the thing. Odds are their information is not going to be exactly the same. But you can import, like I said, the most important thing to remember is that it has to be apples to apples. So if you have a buyer and you're wanting to import their information, it needs to be their information from like say a buyer brokerage agreement, or if they're on the buying side of a purchase and sale. Does that make sense to everybody? I hope, maybe. Yay, nay. Do we have any other questions about importing values? Like, is there something else that we want to explore, want to see?
Gather around and pay attention.
Oh, sorry, I missed that. Okay, that may have been some extraneous conversation, but let me show you guys another way that you can do form values.
J will be J.
Okay, that was somebody having another conversation. Let me show you guys another way that you can add form values to your appFiles account. To me, this is not as an efficient way to do it because you would have to like do it year after year after year, which I guess, yeah. If you're on your home screen, okay, up here at the top left is where you see your account information. And if you click on this form values, then you can actually pick different forms. So like, let's say a purchase and sale. Purchase and sale agreement, here we go. Okay. You can actually fill this in. Go to that last page. And then once you do that, anytime you add this form into an app file, it will have these form values already filled in for you. Okay, so let me show you what I mean. So let's say that you are, I mean, obviously if it's purchase and sale, you're going to be on the buyer side. So let's say, I'm not going to fill in every little thing because that would take too long. But let's just do a few little things here. Okay, so let's say that I filled in all of this information here, right? Okay, on the buyer side. Now, this is something that throws people off because it seems like there ought to be like a save and close button right here, right? But there isn't. Okay, so once you fill this in, if you go up here and click on close, all right, and then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to come back here to my test file. I'm going to click on add forms. I'm going to do a search for that purchase and sale. Oops, excuse my typos. Okay. I'm going to add I'm just going to do this under general paperwork. Add selected forms. Okay. And then now if I go to that page 11, all of that information that I just entered in my form values is there. So this is another way that you can do this, but what that requires is you going through each form in appFiles and filling in all of that information. So you can do it this way. If this is what makes the most sense to you, this is another way that you can do it. The thing that you have to keep in mind, since you guys just had that GAR class last week, every time there are changes to the GAR forms, those forms get updated in appFiles and all this information goes away. So if there are any kind of updates, you would have to go in and re-enter this information. Now, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not an agent, so I don't know this for sure, but I feel like GAR really only makes changes a couple of times a year. Does that seem right? Maybe like beginning and midway? Looking at some of my seasoned people that maybe know.
Generally so.
Generally, so okay, thank you, Jody. So if it's worth it to you to do it at the beginning of the year, the middle of the year, you know, you can go through and do this, but my recommendation is to really create those template appFiles and utilize those. Okay. So if we don't have any more questions on the form values, we did have a couple of people that had questions about template files. So maybe we could go and look at that if that's okay, acceptable to everybody. Do we have any other questions on form values? Good. All right, I'm going to assume that everybody is good. Okay, so again, I'm going to close out of some of these extra. I don't like to have extra things. So when I'm talking about creating template appFiles, there are actually there are some that have been created, and I think most of my people here, with the exception of Erin, which Erin already has her template appFile set up, so she's good. Most of my people here are center folks, so let me look at it. Okay, so Tina and Haley and I have created some template appFiles, and you can see they're like, these are specific to center folks, and these are specific to metro people. And the difference between that is addresses mostly. And then I think Remax, Metro, you guys deal a lot more with pre-78 properties than our center folks do. So there's some extra little forms in there. But since I mostly have center folks on here, let's just take a look at that. You guys can use these and copy these. So these would already have, let me make my screen just a little bit smaller. This already has the things that you guys would use most often in for example, this is a buying file. Excuse me. So you can kind of use this as a sample. The only thing that I kind of see as a downside is if you were to copy this, there are a lot of things in here that you don't necessarily need. Like, this is good information for you guys to have, but you're not using every single Luter Larkin attorney on a file. You're not using every single Southeast mortgage lender on a file. You may not be using any of these. So you can kind of use this as a guide, but my advice to you would be for you to create a new appFile that is specific to you, because not all agents do things in the same way. I know that's shocking. But not everybody does things in the exact same way. So, right? Yeah. So I would create it in a way that makes the most sense for you and your business. So if you're wanting to do that, you can use this as kind of a guide, but I would just start with a brand new appFile, and I would just call it, for example, I'll use myself. Come on, keyboard. Buyer template. Okay. And then what I would do is every time I have a buyer, once I get this set up the way that I want it to look, every time I have a buyer, I would just come in and copy this appFile. Okay. So none of this is going to be filled in for right now. I'm going to click on next. I don't need to add anybody to this file. We are already automatically added. Okay. And then I would just start adding the things that I use most often. We used to have a buyer package, but I don't actually see that anymore. So maybe we don't have it. Okay. Sell it, listing pre-78, lease listing. There's not a ton of stuff you need for buyers anyway. So let's think about what are the things that you would need most often for a buyer brokerage agreement, right? Sorry, I'm not an agent, so I have to use somebody else's information. All right. Purchase and sale, yeah, right? There we go. Put this here. Okay. What are some other things that you guys would use for a buyer? Something that's common that you might need for a buyer? Can anybody call out something? Contingency, loan contingencies?
Yes.
Would that be something we need? Okay. So you may, if you're going to use this as your template file, you may want to just add all of these here, and then I would probably label this contingencies. Okay. So those are definitely some things. Oh, and look at that. I forgot to split them apart. So I could go back through and split all those apart. I'm not going to do it right now, but these are things I think you guys would use most often. So if I were creating a template appFile, I would make sure that I have these. What about any of those GAR brochures? Would we need those for buyers? Let me do brochures. Again, I'm not an agent, so I kind of look to you guys to tell me, what do they have them under? GAR, consumer. Sorry, I'm like, what are they calling these? Disclosure statement.
Be down at the bottom. I don't know. They've changed. They keep changing it on us. There we go.
Oh, it's because it starts with 2026. There you go. All right, so what I would think maybe this one that says EPA home buyers, we might use that, right? And then maybe this how to protect yourself when buying a home, maybe with an HOA. Anything that says buying, I might go ahead and add that. What about this ABCs of agency? I don't know what that is.
That's
Is that something
Just explaining what we do.
That's
okay,
the hot spot.
Okay, all right. So things that I might use for a buyer, I'm going to go ahead and add those. There we go. And then once I have it set up the way that I want it to look, then now that I have this, every time I have a buyer, all I have to do is copy this appFile. Let me just real quick, just because I'm going to split these apart. There we go. So now I can see all of them there. Okay. So like, let's say that you have a new buyer, then all I would do is come over here and I would say, copy this appFile. And then I would just copy whatever information I need. So obviously the top part, I'm going to leave blank for the moment. Maybe I add the person's name in. So let's just say I'll use my husband's name. He has no idea I use his name all the time in these classes. Okay, so now at this point, since I'm creating this for a specific buyer, now I can decide like what information from this do I need and what do I not need. So like I'm always going to need a buyer brokerage agreement. I'm always going to need a purchase and sale agreement. I'm going to need these brochures, right? But let's say I know that he's going to do a conventional loan, then I don't need any of the rest of these. So now I can just click on create app file. I'm not going to do it because we don't need any more extra files, but now I can create app file and I have a specific file for this buyer. So rather than starting at the beginning, excuse me, and creating all of this, I can just come to my template app file and copy it. Every time I have a new buyer, I can just copy it. And the advantage of that too is once you get this set up the way you want it to look, now you're going to come into your forms and you're going to make sure that you have all of this information here at the bottom filled in. So that way, when you copy the app file, this is already going to be filled in for you. Okay. Aaron, would you mind if I showed the group one of your template app files that we created? Would that be okay?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So when Erin joined, she's on the Zach team, so they have a very specific template that they use. So I created this app file for her. Okay, so you can see she has these different templates here. So if I click on her seller template, okay, just find the listing agreement. Okay, so you can see here all of her information is already filled in. So every time Erin has a new seller, she just comes and copies this app file, and then all of this stuff is already filled in. So she's not having to refill this stuff in every single time, right? So this is why I say creating a template app file is really the best way to go. It takes a few minutes to get it created, but once it's done, you just copy it every single time you have a new client, and then you're done. Okay. Do we have any questions about creating the template app files? Do we feel like that's helpful, not helpful?
Definitely helpful.
You can, I don't know if I didn't say, I usually say at the beginning of the class, but I welcome feedback. So even if you're saying like, I don't think that's a very good use of my time, like, okay, say that, and then let's figure out a better way to do it. So I welcome any feedback. If you feel like this is too time consuming, like there has to be an easier way or a better way, tell me, because I would love to figure out, you know, I want my job and my goal is to make life as easy as possible for you guys. That is what I'm here to do. So if you don't like the way we're doing something, like, please feel free to tell me that, and I'm more than happy to work with you and let's figure out a better way. Let me just also point something out while we're here talking about importing values. I've said this in the past few classes to people, but let me actually use my buyer file here. This side over here that says file information, can you guys all see that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Eric. This section right here, a lot of people don't use this, but it's actually super duper important because it's going to save you a lot of time. So if you're working with a buyer file, I'm going to come over here to this file information. I'm going to click on add section. There are some templates that are already created for you. And the ones that you're going to want to use are these ones that say master buyer, master seller, master tenant, because those have been created by the appFiles staff. And what those are is those are perfect matches to import those form values. Okay. So I'm going to click on this master buyer template and show you guys what I mean. Okay. And once again, much like anything else, you also have the ability to copy from another app file. So if you have helped these people before, you can copy their information from a previous app file. But let me just create this section. Okay, now there's a lot of stuff here to fill out that you probably will not need to fill out. But if this is your buyer, the things that you're going to want to fill out for them, their name, their mailing address. I'm just going to use the office address here. Okay, their phone number. whichever, I think most people use cell phones now, but some people do still have landlines as well. If you have a second buyer, their email address. This is super important too. Okay. Any property address, like if they already have a property in mind that they're looking at, you may want to put that in here as well, the MLS number. Excuse me. Whatever information you can fill in here is going to save you time in the long run. Okay, and let me show you what I mean. Let me just go ahead and put in, just for argument's sake, 7. Just gonna do this here. Okay, I think that is probably the most important information. Again, this is another one of those weird ones where it doesn't have like a save and close. You just click close. Okay, but here's the file information. So now what I can do is I can come over here to this buyer brokerage agreement. Okay. And I can import those values onto this form. So if I click on import values and I click on import from info fields, okay, it tells me there are 4 values here. I'm going to click on choose. Okay, so now here's where I can decide if I want all of this information on the form. So for like a buyer brokerage, since that's a form that like you guys fill out between you and your client, you may want that. If this were a purchase and sale, I can imagine you're probably not going to want their contact information on there because you're not going to want to send that to the other agent. I may be totally wrong on that, but I don't think that I am. So this is where you're going to want to choose. If you were doing this for like a purchase and sale, you may just unclick some of that information. You might just put their name. But since we're talking about a buyer brokerage, I'm going to go ahead and import all of those. So it's finished. And now if I scroll down here to the bottom, all my information is right there. So now you can import this information, excuse me, to any form that you have in the app file that has the buyer's information on there. So the other reason why this is important is, let's say that I needed to send a copy of this for whatever reason, like just a straight up copy, not a signature request. If you have their information over on that right hand side, right here where it says file info, I just click on the drop down menu and now I can send it. Instead of having to type their email address in every single time, I can just click that on the drop down menu. So the other thing that's good here to add would be like, let's say maybe you're a closing attorney, right? Because I imagine you guys probably have to send information to them all the time. I don't actually know any of their phone numbers, so okay. Email address. I'm just going to use mine again. Center. Whoops. Okay. So now if you have something that you need to email over to the closing attorney, their email address is going to appear in that drop down, there we go, that drop down menu as well. So see right here, I can click on, so you can add the lender's information, like anybody that you're going to be dealing with on this file, you can add them to this right hand side, and then there, all you have to do is click on their name. So that makes it a lot easier to email documents out to folks. All right. We only have a few minutes left, so what other burning questions do we have that I can answer for you? Anybody? It can be anything. Doesn't even have to be appFiles. No, I'm kidding. It does have to be appFiles related, but is there anything that you have come across in the past, maybe like adding signatures to a document, to a PDF document? I get that one a lot.
Lena,
Jody?
Helena,
Yes, ma'am.
I've always wondered why this system has not come up with a plan so that you could send 2 separate emails, at the same time, instead of having to do one and when it's finished and the other. You remember how we used to do it? You'd get one document signed and it would automatically be sent to the next one. I don't
Mhm.
understand why appFiles, as sophisticated as it's to be, hasn't come up with that.
I actually have an answer on that for you because I asked that very same question earlier this year. Poor Melissa over at Files knows me very well. I call her all the time. And I said, hey, I would really like to know because a lot of our Metro folks use Dotloop and Dotloop lets you do that. And I said, why doesn't appFiles do that? And she said, oh, that's easy to answer. Said, we have it set up that way for compliance reasons. She said, for compliance. Yep. So she said, because there have been so many issues, I guess, in recent years, you guys could speak to this more than I can, but issues with fraud and things like that, they require you to send a like two separate requests so that you can show I sent this to Selena Keever and I sent this to Mark Keever. Selena Keever signed it, Mark Keever signed it. And then now, let me find one.
I was thinking it was so easy. What we use, Remine or something that we could do
Remine.
that
Mhm.
and never have to use Dotloop.
Right. But that was what she said is because they have made it that way to help cut down on, I guess, fraud and
I've never read about that. Anything of that fraud along those lines.
right. So, because I know exactly what you're saying. So, like for those new folks, let me kind of show you guys what she's talking about. So, like, I have a buyer brokerage agreement, and let's say I want to send it, like, it's two people that are going to be buying it, and I want to send it to two separate people. I have to create two separate signature requests. Whereas on other systems like Dotloop and Remine, you can just create one and put in like, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Jody, but you could create one and you could put in like Selena Keever's email address and Mark Keever's email address, and you just do it one time. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. But with appFiles, you have to do it to, you can send it to the same email address, but you have to show that you're doing it two separate times. So if I click on this request signature, start a signature request. Again, here's where having that right-hand side helps you because it shows up in this little drop-down menu. Okay. Just that one. Click on next. I'm just going to click check all just for our purposes here. Okay. So again, click on the drop-down menu. So what she's saying is other systems, if you had two buyers, you would get to here and you could choose like Selena Keever and Mark Keever. But appFiles doesn't let you do that. You have to send a request to Selena Keever, and then you have to create another request and send it to Mark Keever. And the answer that I got from appFiles is because there was too many incidences of fraud, people signing for other people, yada, yada, yada. So they just said you have to do it, one person and then the next person.
Those who haven't used this very much, you have to wait until your first client has signed before you can send it to your second client.
You shouldn't have to do that. You should not have to wait. Should we try it out? Because you shouldn't have to wait.
I would love that.
Okay. So then I'm going to, let's send this to me. All right. And then Jody, if you don't mind, I'll send the other one to you.
Okay.
Buyer signature 2. Next. Okay, morning, babe. All right. Jody, you'll have to remind me what your email address is. I'm sorry.
JodySanders@hotmail.com.
Thank you. Okay, so I sent the request to myself first.
Mm-hmm.
And I can already see it in my email. So Jody, if you have your email open, do you see the signature request?
Well, let's just look here and see. I do.
Thank you guys for indulging us on this because this is a really great question.
Yes, I do. I do have the signature request
Okay, will
So-
it let you go on and sign?
Let's see that. Please click here. It does. Yes, it does.
Okay. So even though I sent it to me first,
Uh-huh.
you should be able to go in and then sign it. If you don't
Uh-huh.
mind signing it, and I promise I will remove your signature from
Oh, well. I don't think I have to worry about that.
No.
Okay, I've signed it.
Okay.
And it says what I think it says I agree. Let me agree.
Okay.
Agree. Okay.
All right. Okay. And then look here. If I open it back up,
Uh-huh.
it shows that I just have this one active signature request.
Uh-huh.
And then if I go down here, there you go.
Okay, now next question. That's excellent. How are the two signatures going to merge
All
on
right.
one document?
Well, let's check that out. So if I open so here is, oh, sorry, that's the notification. Here we go. Okay, so now if I click here, can you guys see that email?
I do. I think I'm the only one left. Maybe Aaron is there.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to click here to sign. Accept. Next. There you go. And then now if we go back to our, let's refresh here. And now we have both of our signatures there. There you go.
Okay, so it does merge them.
Mhm.
Okay, excellent. Well, that's good to know.
Yeah.
That
So,
saves
oh, yeah, I
time.
love when people learn new things.
Yeah, me too. And I'm not a newbie, so this is
Right?
great. This has been an aggravating point ever since I learned appFiles. So at
Gotcha.
least you can do it at one time and not have to wait
Yes.
and come back. I mean, that's what we do. We sit and we wait and we wait and we sit and we wait and we call and
Right.
say, please.
Yeah. So now you don't have to do that. To me, I think the cumbersome part is just like I can't click on two different emails and send at the same time. I've got to do this signature request and then I go to this one, which
Right,
it's
right.
not that time consuming, but sometimes it's those little things, right?
Well, this is a little thing that is time consuming, in my
Yeah.
opinion. So that's
Yeah.
excellent.
I'm just going to go ahead and take our little signatures off here.
Okay. We don't want to buy anything today.
Right. My husband and I just finished building a house, so no
Oh.
buying houses for us.
Ay, ay, ay. Bless your heart.
I was actually it was fabulous, and
Oh,
our house,
good.
yeah.
Good.
So,
Good.
well, I thank
Okay.
you guys so much for joining this morning. And if you have any other questions, I know sometimes people don't necessarily want to speak up during a class, and I get that. I was a teacher for 11 years, so I totally get that. But I am more than happy to schedule one-on-one time with you, or if we want to do a small group, you guys can come here. We can do it over Zoom. Just don't hesitate to reach out, okay?
I've asked Tina if we could teach me how to set up the TV to the computer, because I think we could get a bigger audience on some of the Zooms and different classes.
Yeah, I think she
Instead
and
of doing it
Barbara
by
were
themselves.
right.
Yeah. I think it's a little more enticing if you say, oh, we're going to have more than one agent there. So
Right.
come on and join.
Right. And I mean, if Jody, if you would like, I can certainly ask Tina. I mean, we would have to schedule it, but I could certainly ask her if I could come to Gainesville and do an in-person class for you guys, because that's not a far drive for me at all.
Yeah. Okay. All righty. Well, come up with something. We'll see if we can round up the troops and get some interest.
Absolutely. I would love that.
Okay.
All right.
Well,
I
thank
hope
you very
guys
much.
thank you. And I hope you guys have a great rest of the day.
Thank you
Thanks.
so
Thank
much.
you.